Okay, I'll check that in a second, String. Thank you. Okay, so this is take 2. This is going to be a really quick manipulation guide for pretty much all of Gen 1. Every category uses at least one manipulation for a Pokemon, so it's really important to understand how this works. And it's really complicated, but I'm going to just explain it in hopefully a simple way so it's easier to understand. But effectively, whenever the game is playing, the RNG is changing. So we'll just pretend there's an infinitely long number and it's just constantly changing. And based off what that number is, we'll determine like your encounters and whatnot. So for example, right here, I'm just gonna get a Meowth because that's where I was in the RNG. But it would be really favorable if we could predict what our number is. And the way that we figured out how to do that is if you save and quit, and then buffer through the intro, you get to the game with an RNG seed that we can predict, and because of that, we're able to effectively find Manips for whatever we need. So it lets us get like the perfect Nidorans and stuff. So I'll explain how the buffering through the intro works. At the end, I'll show all the buffers, or at least a lot of them. But for now, I'll just show how the Manips work. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna go to any tile. So every different tile will give you different results. So let's just pick this one. And I'm going to save the game. And I'm going to do a hard reset. So a hard reset isn't like an A, B, start, select. If you press A, B, start, and select at the same time, this will happen. And you'll appear on this screen first. I call that the numbers screen. But if you do a hard reset, which is like you turn the power off, you turn the power back on, you hit the reset button on the GameCube, or you hit Control R on Gambit, you'll get your title screen. Oh, whoop. Whoops. Okay, you get your title screen. So you see like, you get the Game Boy logo, and that's what you want. So that totally resets the RNG seed to a value that we know. And from here, you have to get through the intro. And if you're just mashing, right, because, like, let's just say you're mashing the A button to get through the intro like we used to, you're going to start the game on a different frame every time. You're not going to start it on the same frame. But we need to frame perfectly advance from when we hit the reset button here until we gain control of our character. And to do that, we're going to buffer through the intro. So I'll show off the fastest buffer, and I'll touch on some later. So the fastest buffer, when this screen appears, you hold B up and select. When this screen appears, you hold start. When this one appears, you hold A when it goes white. And then you hold a direction, and when I get an encounter, we'll find out what it is. I get a Vulpix, which is a 10% slot, so pretty rare. So that's a level 18 Vulpix. So then if I do it again, and again, the movement has to be the same every time. This route's different, so I don't have to do identical movement as long as I'm in the grass for the same amount of steps. But for the most part, the movement has to be perfect as well. So again, if I'm just in the grass until I get an encounter, it'll be that same exact Vulpix. Same DVs, same level, everything. Same Vulpix. So, Manips they can be kind of challenging to understand, but it's really simple. You save the game on a specific tile, and then you play from the reset until you get the encounter in an identical way, and you'll get the same encounter every time. So now I'm just going to touch on all of the different, or not all of them, but as many as I can remember, of the different ways for you to buffer through the intro, because it's important to know all of these when you're running 124 or 151. There's a lot of different ways you can buffer through the intro. So I showed off the fastest buffer, so I'm going to make like in the description, but this is the fastest buffer. There'll be like time links and everything. So B up select, start, A. Very simple, and yeah, that's the easiest one as well. There's nothing fancy. So the next couple are also important to know. So we call this the BIOS screen, this screen right here, where it says like Game Boy, Nintendo. We call this the BIOS screen. And when this screen appears, holding different things can also change the manips. So for example, when you're getting your ID for 151, you need to hold A, B, start, or select during this screen. So if I'm holding A, I'll get a slightly different RNG seed. It'll delay it by a few frames. Even if I do the rest of the intro exactly the same, if I'm holding A during this, I'll get slightly different results. There's also tapping. So it's kind of weird with tapping and holding, but if you, well, like when you reset, if you hold A until Game Boy starts to appear, you can get different results from if you hold it the entire time. So when we say, for example, tap a palette or hold a palette, that's what we mean, which is another way that you can mess with the intro. If you hold a direction on the gamepad or, press it, you can get a different palette. So I'm holding left, I get the blue palette. I'm holding right, I get green. I hold up, I get the red palette. And I hold down, I get the brown palette. That changes how the manips work as well. And even within that, there's tapping and holding. So holding is pretty obvious. You start holding left, then you reset, and you keep holding until the Game Boy logo goes away. And then from here, you continue to just do your normal intro, or maybe even a combination of weird things during the intro. So that's holding a palette. And then tapping a palette, you start holding left, you reset, and then as soon as you see the palette change colors, you let go. And it'll change the palette and, again, give you a different seed than before. So those are the 3 different things you can do during the BIOS screen. Again, there's holding a palette, where you just hold left the whole time. There's tapping a palette. You hold left until you see the color change, then you release. And then there's holding, we just call it holding A. I don't think we have a specific name for it, but you can hold A, you can hold B, you can hold start or select. You just need to hold a button during the intro. So that's all the fancy stuff with the BIOS screen. So next we have the Game Freak logo screen. There's a lot of different things you can do for the Game Boy logo screen. So one of the biggest ways that we have to change how the manips work is called crazy buffering. So the way the crazy buffering is, instead of holding B up select on this screen here, you don't hold anything. And you'll see these stars. When the last stars disappear right there, you see how there's that little pause before it displays this screen? What you're going to do is, as soon as those stars disappear, you're going to hold B up and select. So again, instead of holding it on the number screen, which is this one, you're going to hold the B up select after the stars disappear. So there's a little bit of timing to it. Just like that. And that's a crazy buffer. So if in the notes, if it says crazy buffer, that's what we mean. And the way, like, the notes get kind of crazy because of this, because you can do combination intros. So for example, there might be a crazy buffer with a palette swap, so you might have to like do your palette and then also do a crazy buffer. So there's all kinds of craziness that can occur in the intro. So then maybe it says like palette swap, crazy buffer, and you'll have to do both. Okay, so that's crazy buffering. So then the next thing you can do is you can hold start on this screen, and then this will skip the crazy buffer screen, and you'll see the Jigglypuff and the Gengar battling. There's 3 different buffers you can do during this screen that we use in 151 and potentially in 124. So I'll show off all 3 of those. And then after this, there's only one more thing that we need to touch on. So you hold start during that screen, and there's 1 hop, 2 hop, 3 hop. You can buffer the A button during any of those hops, and you'll get different intro lengths. So I'll show that off really quick. So for example, if a manip says hop 1, hold the A button right when Jigglypuff does that first hop, and then continue to do the intro as normal. And that's a hop 1 Manip. So you hold start on this screen, and then A when Jigglypuff does that little hop. You've got a little bit of time. They're a little bit precise, but they're not that bad. But that would be a hop 1 Manip. Hop 2, just the exact same thing, except instead of on that first hop, you're going to use the second hop. Quite simple. Hop 1, hop 2. And we know it does 2 hops per what we say hop, but we just mean the second set of hops. That would be a hop 2 Manip. And then finally, hop 3. This is the weirdest one in my opinion. It's kind of hard because the timing's really weird, but same thing. You hold start on this screen. Hop 1, hop 2, and time it. The timing's really awkward, but that's a hop 3 Manip. You want to start holding A once Jigglypuff starts that final hop to dodge the Gengar attack. So that's a hop 3 Manip. And the final Manip item is what we call a back out. So back out's really weird. I'll just do the regular one. So you're going to back out of the continue screen by pressing the B button as soon as you hear that click. So I can just show it from here. So you hear that click right there? That click when it says continue. As soon as you hear that, you switch from holding A to B, and it'll back out to the intro. And then as soon as it backs out, you need to switch back to holding A. So that's a back out. So it looks like this. Oh wait, I have to hold start for that. A, swap to B, swap back to A. The timing's a little weird. That's definitely one you're going to need to practice, but that's a back out. So those are all of the main Manips. I think there's like 8 different ways of doing it. But now that we know all of that, we can combine them to get a lot of different ways to buffer through the intro, and that's major for routing. So for example, you saw how I got a Vulpix when I did the earlier Manip, just the standard one. If I don't want to get a Vulpix, it can be really hard to avoid. So what I'll do instead is let's change up my intro and see if I get something that's not a Vulpix. So let's do a palette swap, why not? So I'll say hold a palette, and then let's do a crazy buffer. So let's add in another line. So we'll say, all right, let's crazy buffer this. And finally, let's do a back out. Let's just see what this gets. So I've changed my intro. And let's see what I get. I get a Meowth instead of a Vulpix. So let's say that for the 124 route, I need to get a Meowth. This would be one way I might go about doing that. I might change up my intro and then get a Meowth that way. And on routes like this, it's really hard to avoid getting a Vulpix. Well, unless you change up your intro. Because you can't really change up your movement on this route because you stay in the grass pretty much the whole time. So yeah, there's a really quick guide on Manips that covered all the intros. It's really simple. I just haven't really seen the video on the intro changes. The next thing is, I guess I should also cover this here as well. This is also kind of important. There's things that we can do in the overworld as well to change our movement. So obviously your character moves at the same speed no matter what. But sometimes you don't want to move at full speed when you're doing Manips. And there's really 2 or 3 different things that are, I guess, the major things we can do. So the first thing is we call it an A-press. So an A-press is really simple, but it can be kind of confusing when you're doing Manips. All you do is you press and hold the A button, and it's going to be very, very hard to tell, but you'll notice my character slightly delays their movement. It delays it by 2 frames, so it's very hard to see. But you'll see when I press the A button, you might notice my character just kind of pauses. You can kind of notice it when you do a bunch of them, but you kind of want to press it and hold it for about as long as I am. It's kind of awkward. but you press it, you hold it for a split second, and then you release it. And that's an A press. Really simple. A lot of manips will say something like, let's say saved here, it might say like, hold up with 2 A presses. So you would hold up 1, 2 A presses, and that might get you a certain encounter. There might also be what we call a start menu. So, or a pause menu, doesn't matter. I've heard both of the terms. So while you're doing your movement, it would look like that. And what you do is you press start, and then as soon as you press start, you hold the B button. And that will pop up the menu and then buffer out of it on the first available frame. Really simple, but it's another way that you can delay getting your encounter. So again, a manip might say something like, hold up with a start menu. And what that would mean is I hold up, I do 1 start menu, and then I go into the grass. And that would get me my encounter. And then finally, there's the hardest one. Let me make sure I know what all my controls are. Okay. This is called a Pokedex Flash. And it's the hardest one. So what you're going to do is you're going to press start to pull up the menu. You're going to hold A to buffer into the Pokedex. Then you're going to press the B button and hold it to get out of the Pokedex menu, and then start to exit the pause menu, and you have to buffer all of those. So the timing on it is quite difficult. It looks like that if you get it right. So it might say hold up and do a Pokedex Flash, and it would look like that. It's really down to practice. You have to time it. But yeah, that's a Pokedex Flash. I don't think there's any of those in the Catch 'em All route. There is one in the Yellow NSC route. I'm not sure about Glitchless, there might be, but definitely a really cool way to do the manips. It's just a little challenging to practice it, but it's definitely something you'll want to practice if it's in the category that you're running. Specifically Yellow NSC, it's a little bit tricky. And then what else would there be? I think that's really all of the main overworld manips. Obviously, there will be like certain movement you have to follow, but then sometimes we'll throw in stuff like that. So one manip might have, let's say, an A press and a Pokedex Flash. So the manip might say on on the route, hold up with an A press and a start menu flash. So A press, start menu flash into the grass, and that might get me a certain Pokemon. And that would be in combination with an intro. So you're kind of combining the manips in that sense, but it's effectively intro plus movement equals Pokemon. And once you understand that formula, it's really simple. So you just pick your tile, you save, you do your intro, you do your movement, you'll always get the same Pokemon unless you mess up, or if you get unlucky. Manips are not guaranteed, but they are almost guaranteed. So that's a little bit more complex, but generally most manips work 29 out of 30 times, with some exceptions. I don't think any of them are worse than 50-50, so generally you'll get the manip to work. And if it doesn't work, all you do is you go back to the tile, you save again, and you reset again, and that'll re-roll your chances of getting the manip to work. So say one fails, you'll just go back to the tile you originally saved on, save the game, reset, do the manip again. Yeah, that was a kind of quick guide on manips. I figured I should make this before 124, because I'm going to be doing some 124 routing. So this would be nice to add to the notes for that, so that people can understand more how manips work. Because there's really no current guides, but just something quick for people to look at is nice. Alright, thanks for watching, guys. See ya.